Well, hello everyone. Today we are going to have some fun with the modern mullet. That's right, we are going to do the modern mullet today, and I'm going to show you section by section, and I can't wait to get started, so let's do the modern mullet. Here is the zoning and sectioning of this cut. Very simple. And you can see the zoning again. We have that triangular in the back. We have our fringe area and the top zone. Let's get right to the sides. We have diagonal sections. We are cutting short to long, straight from the head. Make sure you lift your elbow. And we're going to take that a little bit shorter. I want that shorter on the interior, a little longer outside. Now we're going to do the exact same on the opposite. We want to create our guide on both sides. Diagonal section, lifting straight up from the head and checking for balance before we move on. Now we're going to go right back to the left side. Diagonal sections, traveling sections, and triangular cutting line. Again, we have diagonal sections as we're going to travel towards the back of the head, and we're going to continue using our guide and cutting that triangular cutting line. We're going to do that until we get to behind the ear. And once we get there, we're going to stop. One more section. You can see we're cutting short to long, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side using our previous cut guide, cutting short to long. And what this is doing is removing a ton of that interior length of the haircut, and it'll give us much more of a mullety feel and lighten up the entire cut and add a lot of movement too. So we're going to work all the way through to behind the ear to the round of the head, and then we're going to check for balance. Once we're set there, we're going to move on to the back. You could see we're going to still travel with diagonal sections, cutting a triangular cutting line. You guessed it. And we're going to work all the way through this rear quadrant, cutting this triangular cutting line using our previous cut hair, and continue to work around the head until we get to that nape area. We're going to continue working through, and we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to merge the back to the front in the same manner. Diagonal sections, lifting it straight out from the head and cutting a triangular cutting line. And we're going to work through this entire section in the same fashion. Again, we're removing a ton of that heaviness and length in the middle interior of this haircut. We're going to work through all the way until we get to the nape area again. We are cutting a triangular cutting line. Now we got our triangle. Central, vertical section. Resaturating everything. We're going to take a central vertical section, pull it straight out from the head, and you guessed it, triangular cutting line, cutting short to long. This is also creating our guide on the top at the same time. Now we are going to over direct just to the previous cut section and work throughout this whole triangular. Continue over directing the previous cut sections until that whole zone is complete. Merge everything together. And we're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side using our central vertical stationary guide. And now we will travel. Just cut to the previous cut section. Previous cut section again, working to the round of the head. And now we'll merge everything together, and there you go. Now we are just going to do some channel cutting. I want to remove a little more heaviness, especially towards the bottom. I want to lighten up that length a little bit, blend everything together. I'm continuously moving my shear And we are working all the way through the head. Just kind of blending everything together and removing more weight. And I want to lighten up the length a bit. Okay, time to get to the top section. We already have our guide from our last triangle section. Now we're going to take a horizontal section. We're going to comb it into the back. Go right back to central vertical sections and continue cutting our triangular cutting line. This will give us our guide for the entire top section. We're going to over direct. Same thing on the opposite side. Everything towards the middle. And cut that triangular cutting line. And now we will be ready for that top zone. You can see central vertical section. Everything will be cut to the previous section. Here's our section right there. You can see a very steep triangular cutting line cutting from short to long. Using horizontal sections, over directing to the previous cut, and continuing until there is no more hair to cut. We're creating a ton of movement at that crown. And again, horizontal sections, short to long. We're going to continue in this manner until there is no more hair to cut. Over directing everything up. There you go. Same thing on the opposite side. You've got horizontal sections, over directing to the previous cut, and cutting a, you guessed it, triangular cutting line. And we're going to do the same thing on this entire side. Horizontal section, lifting it straight out from the head. And now we are at our fringe zone. You can see we brought our sides a little bit into, as we'll show you right now. We're going to take that top of the fringe, comb it right to the ear on both sides, and use this entire section for our fringe and our hair around the face as well. So now we are going to take a central vertical section here to create our guide. Lifting it straight out from the head and cutting our guide. There you go. We will now take horizontal sections and over direct everything to the previous cut section in the same manner. This will create a really nice fringe for us, and it'll also blend into those sides a little bit too. You can see now we're working towards the recession of the head, over directing everything towards the middle, taking anything that's left and cutting. Same thing on the opposite side, horizontal sections, over directing to the center and cutting our line. Horizontal sections, over directing, lifting everything up. Now we're getting a nice fringe happening in here. We're also getting a little bit more framing around the face as well. We're lifting everything up and cutting that right to the guide. You can see, now we're going to do a little bit of channel cutting in here. I want to break up that fringe a little bit more. Open up that face a little bit shorter in the middle. Get a nice textured feel here. This will help quite a bit. Okay. Now we are all set. Continuing to point cut and create more texture. And now we're going to work around the head. I'm just twisting little sections of hair and channel cutting right through those sections. I want to create a little more movement, a little more texture, lighten up that whole area. Anything that I see that's heavy, All right, here we go. We got a little Super Ego by Style Sign Goldwell. We are going to work it through the head. We're going to break up that fringe. You can see a ton of texture. You could really see the shape come alive. The mullet feel happening, this modern mullet. And it just has a beautiful shape. I hope you guys love the modern mullet. If you like, please subscribe and like the video. Thank you.